Welcome back again to the Hold That Thought podcast. I'm your host Aisha Pali, and we are back for another episode. Um, just like the last one was technically unplanned, today's episode is also unplanned because I had something else that I've been working on that's about something completely different. But just like the episode about Memphis that was inspired by, kind of like something that came out of nowhere that was hitting, well, making its way through the news cycles. Today's episode is also brought by something that recently happened in the news where I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to put that other episode down again and start something else because I have to talk about this. And that thing is what the Supreme Court recently did by gutting the Voting Rights Act, which is actually ironic that I'm recording this today because I actually this morning went to vote for the Shelby County election because I did not get the opportunity to do it during early voting. But again, I do believe in voting, and coming from people who, did not always have the right to vote, is definitely important for me. Ever since I have been able to vote, I definitely make sure I vote in um, local and, of course, like the big elections. I also got a new microphone. When I was just messing around with it and playing it back to see if I liked it, I personally felt like the audio is clearer and like, I don't know, maybe I'm louder or I can hear myself better. And there was also kind of like I don't know, a background. I don't know, when I was using um my regular headphones to record. I don't know. I personally like this mic better. So I hope that for you that it sounds better. Let me know if not, because the reviews I saw about this weren't the best, but it seems to be working for me. So whatever. Anyway, moving on to the point of today's episode, where I will discuss how American society as we know it is continuing to crumble in all the worst ways. On April 29, 2026, in a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court struck down one of Louisiana's majority black congressional districts. And to those six, I say, I wish you the worst. I wish the worst to befall you and everybody that you care about. And you probably don't care about anybody, including your own children. And that's your problem there. You're evil with no soul. I wish you the worst. If your mama's still alive, I wish her the worst of the worst. And I wish it on your kids too. Yeah, I said it. And for anybody that voted for this, I hate you. And I wish you some worse that we have not seen unfold yet. I hope you get a new brand of worse. I really do. I really hope that, the devil that y'all fake Christians say that y'all are going against, I hope he really ups the ante and shows you how bad things can really get for you. Go to hell. Moving on. The court's unfortunate conservative majority found that Louisiana's 6th district, which links black people across the state, relied too heavily on race in its design. Skirt. Let's let's stop right here. Let's pause and let's get into something real quick because I have a question for the class. Could someone tell me who created race? Who created racial categories, and then who created racial categories that were based off of people's physical appearance and then decided to subjugate people into those categories that are based off physical appearance? Because that was not always a thing. There was always like a distinction between ethnicities or tribes, right? But as far as the race as we understand it and as it's used and presented in America, could somebody tell me who made that up? Because I can tell you who it wasn't. It wasn't the people that's always being targeted. We could not have cared less about that until somebody else or another group came around and tried to make fetch happen with it. Did nobody ask for that? So you create race for it to benefit you. Then when the races that you decided would have to be beneath you are gaining footing and showing you how it's really done and showing you how to really make shit pop and showing you what creativity, soul, individuality and all things, just true intelligence and being grounded, when you get shown up by the people who you were told were underneath you, then you have to try to flip the rules and race doesn't matter anymore. Race only matters when I can win. Is it Uchiwali or is it one mic? You have to be on a very strong brand of a controlled substance for you to think that that makes sense. Again, to anybody that is supporting this, voting for this, crossing their fingers for it, advocating for it, passing policies for this to be done, go to hell and take everybody you love with you. And another thing, let me not forget to say this. Clarence Thomas, you ugly, saggy face, potato built piece of shit. Clarence Thomas is a disgrace. For us to go from B. Thurgood Marshall, and for him to have Clarence Coon Thomas as his successor, oof, I know Thurgood Marshall's spirit probably wish it could jump back in his body and walk up there and just twirl with Miss Clarence. Oh, I put my money on Thurgood because, oh, Thurgood Marshall, if you are listening, if you could just you could just float back in your body real quick. If you could just do one more thing for us, my good sir, if you just really don't mind. Clarence Thomas is disgusting. The other people that's on that conservative tip, I expect that from them. I'm not surprised. I would be shocked if they went a different way, right? But for Clarence Thomas to have gotten to where he is because of the same things that he actively votes against, again, I cannot wait until I get on the internet and I see TMZ post the breaking news that he is no longer in the realm of the living. I I'm flying to the liquor store to go buy a bottle to pop to celebrate. And you know what? Shout out to Anita Hill, because while the whole court process happened before I was born, even I can recall back to being much younger, I vividly remember hearing a lot of, people around me say growing up that Clarence Thomas was no Thurgood Marshall, and that Anita Hill had always maintained that he sexually harassed her. And when I finally saw what Anita Hill looked like versus what Clarence Thomas looked like as a young child, younger than 10 years old, I was like, yeah, I believe her, because she's beautiful, beautiful and intelligent. And Anita Hill is actually still very pretty to this day. Anita Hill is aging like someone with a good soul. And Clarence Thomas is aging like the people that he wish he was. Anyway, and I did, again, because I wasn't, around when like the whole thing was happening in real time. So I did my due diligence, did some actual research into that whole thing. And what I did not know was that, yes, Anita Hill was the one that was like the main person testifying against him, but I didn't realize that there were four other witnesses that corroborated her claims against him, and they still confirmed that bastard to the Supreme Court. And it's like, you know what, Joe Biden gotta whack you upside your demented head because you played Anita Hill. And I always believed her. And seeing how he turned out, oh, I don't care what nobody say. I believe he did everything she said and probably more that he ain't never got caught doing. And while I was doing some more research about him, I didn't realize that he was married before, and to a black woman at that. I've heard a lot of things being said about Clarence Thomas, but never, and I have never read his autobiography because, yeah, by the time I learned about it, it was already known that he was a coon. So I was like, yeah, girl, fuck you in your life. I don't care. But yeah, I've never heard anybody say that. And him and his ex-wife also have a son. I There was news to me. I was just like, oh, okay, interesting. So I wonder how this one go from that to where you are now, I had my suspicions, and as I dug a little deeper, I pretty much it's exactly what I thought. So and I don't really want to say her name because from what I found, she loves privacy. Me too, girl. And she has been able to maintain a low profile for a very long time. So I don't want to like just blast her, but I will say, because I'm a journalist, right? So I gotta give information just so people know I'm not pulling stuff out my butt. But her first name is Kathy, and they met in college and got married in 1971. Their son was born in 1973. And they separated in 1981 and were divorced in 1984. So for 10 years, he was in a marriage with a black woman, with a black child, and living in a black family. Now, I watched a video on TikTok by a creator that talks about Black history, and her name is I'll Tell You What, and aisle is spelled like AISLE, like a grocery aisle or a store aisle that you're on. And in parentheses, her name is Ashley, and she has Ashley spelled ASHLEIGH. So she quoted Clarence Thomas saying that he and his first wife started dating because, quote, she shared my political views, quote, we went to demonstrations together, and they, quote, launched a free breakfast program. Now, soon after they got married, he entered Yale Law School, and she withdrew from school to focus on supporting the family while he focused on earning his degree. Now, when the person on the video said that, I shook my head. I said, "Oh no!" Now, granted, this this happenings has come and go, but I was just like, "Oh no, sister, you don't ever stop what you got going on to support a man." Oh no, I knew I wasn't gonna end well. That poor woman. And so as he got further into law, of course, that takes a lot of time, a lot of your time, and that resulted in him having long hours that kept him away from home while his wife was pretty much keeping everything together. So at this point, the wife is the breadwinner. She is taking care of everything on the home front, doing pretty much, all of childcare, and also providing emotional support to him. Right? Now, this is where things start to get interesting. As his career took off, he started to change as a person and concerning his politics. So he went from being a Democrat to being an independent to now, as we know, being a House Republican. Yeah. And he also started to distance himself from the same views that he said brought him and his ex wife together. And that's such a tale as old as time for black men to start out with a black woman that wants to quote unquote hold it down on the home front, and they might have one or a few black children with their black wives, and then they end up accessing a certain they start having access to things that they never had access to before. They start being in rooms and around people that they never could in the past, and they literally, it's like they short circuit in their brains, and they just forget who they are and what they look like and what those people really think of them, and they completely switch up and sell out. And that's exactly what that bastard did. And so again, as I said, they got separated in 81 and then divorced in 84. Shout out to the ex-wife. I know she is so glad that she got away from him. I know she's so glad that she did not sell out like him, and she got from up under him and moved on with her life. And shout out to their son. I hope please don't turn out like your daddy. I hope be like your mama. Don't His son probably don't even talk to him, because if I'm not mistaken, they don't they don't have any dealings, because again, I was looking in the comments on those videos, and people were like, first of all, I never knew he had a child, and I had no idea that he was married before into a black woman at that. Not surprising at all. And so then, once they went their separate ways, he married the decaying wildebeest in 1987, and then his trial with Anita Hill, being in 1991. And another thing that I remember, like, hearing people say, or I was hearing people say that, like, one of the defenses that his supporters or whatever were trying to use against Anita Hill was to say that she was lying because, he was married to Humpty Dumpty at the time. But I'm just like, again, even as a child, I'm like, yeah, if you could have the choice between eating spam and eating a prime cut of steak, I mean, look at who he look at the pumpkin that he's with now. She's a walking pumpkin, and she not even a pumpkin that she's rotten. She probably stinks. I know she probably got all types. She probably has like ticks and fleas because she looked like she would. Yeah, I could. Yeah, I could see him seeing Anita Hill in her catching his eye. And I don't even think that it's just about like physical attraction. I feel like I feel like his targeting of her and the other women that said, that they could corroborate his behavior. I feel like that's rooted in something more sinister. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think on that. But I don't know. That's just so interesting because I don't know why some black men who sell out and trade their black wives in will still sometimes still attempt to have like relations with a black woman on the side. And for one, it's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to do that, period, to anybody. It's disrespectful to the person that you're married to, and it's disrespectful to the other woman because you're basically telling the both of them, I have no respect for either one of you. I have no respect for women. Y'all are both here to serve me. Y'all are a means to my end. I would lie and cheat and do whatever and deceive and do whatever I have to do because I want to, have my cake and, eat it too. But I don't know. Sometimes I feel like they marry the white or non-black woman because they want to feel better about themselves. They want to distance themselves from their blackness, and they want to feel like they're being elevated in society by being with somebody who's not black. But like, I don't know, maybe they still want to try to mess with black women on the side because they feel like black women may stroke their ego in a way that another woman won't. Or they may want to put the black woman in a box to be like, this is the person that I'm going to abuse because I don't really respect women, period, but I especially hate black women. So I want to like still be able to harm black women even though I'm not married to a black woman anymore. I don't know. um I would say he needs to donate his brain to science after he died, but to be honest, I, we don't need it that much. He could just disappear and gone on. And another thing, and I think this is gonna be the last thing I say about him because I want to move on to the other things I wanted to talk about as far as what the Supreme Court just did. The thing that he's with now, the rump roast that he lays up with current day, she comes from an upper middle class family. And I find that to be interesting because I sure can't tell. She don't look like money. She doesn't look like cash. She doesn't look like change. She doesn't even look like monopoly money. She doesn't even look like the plastic play money that teachers use to teach children how to count money. I mean, is she eating the money? Now that would make sense, but where's the money going? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe she's buying other Clarence Thomases. I don't know. Because my thing is, I'm a regular, degular, schmegular, everyday person. Shout out to Cardi B. And I look so much better than her. I am not understanding. If you have all this access and all these things, why don't you look like it? She needs to get on quite a few tables. She needs to make a lot of appointments. She needs to go under anesthesia a lot of times. She does. She, the first time I saw her, I jumped. Like I was so startled by her look. I was like, is that a real person? She looks like a Halloween decoration. And that's very fitting because she's evil. I just I thought maybe, she was just, some, raggedy bum that, you know, wanted to hitch a ride to a justice, but like, no, like she comes from something. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I cannot tell by looking at that. I, anyway, I'm done with him and I'm done with him and his owner. I just wanted to go in on both of them because of all justices to vote against or to vote for gutting the Voting Rights Act. Again, I'm not surprised. at Clarence Thomas whatsoever, because we know what it is with him. We've known it for years. We've known it for a long time. But just to continue to see him proudly, eagerly, and voluntarily contribute to the further disenfranchisement of people that come from the same circumstances that he came from the people you just disenfranchise your own son. But of course he doesn't care because his son is black and he can't take that. He can him being black is black. That's enough. He don't need no other black people around him. He can't take that. So I just wanted to say that and go in on him, and I just want to call his wife ugly because she is. Moving on. There was an article that I was reading on NPR titled Supreme Court Paves the Way for Largest Ever Drop in Black Representation in Congress by Hanzi Lo Wang. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. And in it, it says that the court, I'm going to just call it the regular court because ain't shit supreme about it. um, they decided to reinterpret longstanding provisions against racial discrimination under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The decision was barely announced before Republicans started calling for maps to be redrawn for the House of Representatives, which includes congressmen and congresswomen. And of course, as we know, or if you don't know, I'm going to tell you now, we are having midterms this year, which will be held on November 3rd, 2026. And these decisions are not sudden. This is very calculated. This has been a long time in the making. Um, you know, non-white and women had to fight for the right to vote to begin with. So, I'm not surprised that the powers that be, who never wanted those groups to get the right to vote in the first place, I'm not surprised that they, are taking the opportunity to try to dismantle that. And they're trying to make sure they have an unfair advantage in the midterms because a lot of people are not happy with how things are going, though I do not have faith in their base to actually vote. Like, they have some sense because they love voting against their own interests because they are okay with burning alive long as the black person next to them also, cooks. So they're okay with that. So I don't have faith in their base to actually vote like they have brains, but something got them shaken up, so they're trying to do what they always do and cheat to try to make sure that they get to retain their positions no matter what. And another devastating blow was how Louisiana's congressional primaries are now suspended as a result of the court's decision. And we can blame Republican Governor Jeff Landry for that. That same Louisiana government also just eliminated and exonerated black man's criminal clerk position that he won fair and square, and his name is Calvin Duncan. And I'm actually going to again, NPR, shout out to NPR. If you want to keep up with what's going on and have some information that is written in a way that is easy for you to digest, I say absolutely look on NPR. They have some really good stuff on there. And so let me pull it up. So the article is called "A Louisiana Man Exonerated for a Crime Was Elected Court Clerk. His role was eliminated." And who was the author? So the author of this is named Eve Abrams. So Calvin Duncan, as I said, he spent over 28 years wrongfully incarcerated, and he recently won an election to be New Orleans. New Orleans is always, well, anyway, to be their next clerk of criminal court. But the Republican state legislature eliminated his position before he could take office on Monday. And so of course this is like after he was supposed to take office. He was supposed to take office on May 4th. And so Calvin Duncan, he won against the incumbent, pulling in nearly 70% of the vote. So again, he won fair and square. The people, apparently his campaign, he connected with the people. He did the work. He shook the hands. He connected. He won his stuff fair and square. And it also does say it confirms that date that he was supposed to take office May 4th. And so just getting into like some background on like how he even ended up in that position. So, a quote from him says that his journey pretty much started in 1982 when he got arrested and brought back to New Orleans to stand trial. And he was involved. It was a murder that he knew nothing about, and he was 19 years old. And so while he was in jail awaiting trial, he began studying law and became, and him being into law, it would eventually end up being a lifelong passion, hence why he, pursued that office. He unfortunately was found guilty and was sentenced to life in Angola State Penitentiary. Another quote from Duncan: I applied for the job as being a jailhouse lawyer. And one of the problems that we had, we was entitled to get access to our records, not to fight our case, but to see what was going on. And I couldn't get records. And so he said that he dreamed of changing the system by becoming a clerk of the court to help people get their records. He was finally released in 2011 with the help of the Innocence Project New Orleans, and he was later exonerated. And in 2023, he earned a law degree. And so, at that point, he said he finally felt qualified to run for the position. But again, earlier this spring, Republican State Senator Jay Morris introduced bills to revamp New Orleans courts, and they eliminated several judgeships and combined New Orleans's civil clerk of court and its criminal clerk of court, which was Duncan's position. And they just so conveniently did that, once he was about to take office. Now, before I get any further into the story, I just want to go over this and really unpack it. This is a man who barely was out of high school, couldn't even legally drink, brain wasn't even done developing, gets caught up in a murder accusation that he did not do. I'm pretty sure at 19, now I don't really know, this particular story does not get really deep into his background, so I'm not really sure what kind of family he came from, but like a 19-year-old just alone, I highly doubt a 19-year-old would, be able to get really, really, really good legal representation unless their parents were also able to provide that for them. He lost his entire youth, spent nearly 3 decades in prison. Who knows what he had to endure and what he had to deal with and what he's seen being in there. I'm pretty sure he lost a lot of people while he was in prison for that long, because in the span of 30 years, people absolutely do pass away. He didn't get to, it's just so many things he never got to experience. And to be in prison for that long, you become institutionalized. American prisons are absolutely not structured and ran in a way where people actually are rehabilitated in there. It breaks them down more and it makes them much worse. And then if they do get out, when they're finally released back out into the world, they just usually, I don't, I want to say they're usually no good. And I don't mean that to be people don't deserve to try to, well, some people don't deserve another chance in life. Some crimes people do, no, bitch, you don't get no another chance. You need to die. That's what you need to do. But especially when people are innocent, I definitely feel like they absolutely deserve their chance to get out there and try to, have some type of normalcy. But when you've been in prison that long, again, it's almost a guarantee that you become institutionalized. So for him to get out and earn a law degree, to earn a law degree is not easy. I'm a smart person and I have more than one degree, but I don't have a law degree. And I probably never will, because that's a different beast. So for him to have been through all of that and to still have done something with his life in spite of, and to have won the election fair and square, for them to then come and swipe in and take that from him is, again, evil, racist, diabolical, dirty, shady, trifling, just deplorable. But again, that's the game they play. They feel threatened. They know they're mediocre. They try to, they really, have been pumping the narrative that, they're the best just because. but they know that that's not true. They get showed up a lot to show that they really don't know their head from their ass. And then, when there's someone who has been through all of these things and they still manage to, accomplish things, and they have the audacity to be black on top of that. Oh, no, 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 we can't have it. No. That's just this I can't say what I really want to say, child. Let me move on. Anyway, so this is a soundbite from a recording from bitch ass Jay Morris. Jay Morris, fuck you and your mama. I hope you go to hell. He said, as I think most of you know by now, Orleans Parish is the only parish in the state that has two clerks of court. Everybody else has one. And so the reporter said that Morris says this bill is about efficiency, but New Orleans has had two clerks for nearly 150 years. And if I am not mistaken, I believe New Orleans is the most densely populated like major city in Louisiana. So yeah, they probably would have more than one because they have more people. And these folks know this. That's just convenient. You just put that at your ass because anyway. So a Democrat that represents New Orleans named Royce, child, what is his last name? Duplessis? I think that might be Duplessis. If that's wrong, forgive me. But they said if we needed to consolidate offices so bad, why wasn't this bill brought last year? Yeah, great. Why? Or the the 150 years? You mean to tell me y'all just not figuring it out, girl? So Jay Morris was like, "Well, I don't know. I didn't think about bringing it last year, and this is in the governor's package." The same governor, the same Republican Jeff Landry that suspended the primary so they can hurry up and redraw the maps. Yeah, I bet it is in his fuck ass package. I bet it is. And so, as of now, Duncan he has filed a federal lawsuit against the governor, saying that the new law keeps him from taking offices that is unconstitutional. I don't know about, I mean, I'm glad he's taking legal action. Of course, he has a law degree, so he absolutely, knows what's up and what's down. I love that he's empowered with so much knowledge. And I mean, I don't know how much money he has. I hope he has a lot so he can, put the resources behind what he needs to get accomplished. But as of now, he's saying if he when the chance arises for him to run again, he absolutely will. And considering that he beat the incumbent by 70%, it sounds like, the community absolutely wants him to have their position. So hopefully when the time comes, they'll stand behind him again and make things right. But even with him filing that lawsuit, I'm concerned as to what kind of judges they're going to go to, because if they are any judges that's up the ass of Daddy Orange, I just don't see it working out in his favor, and it's just so evil because it should. And again, I have other things to say, but child, some people be at my door if I do. So let me just move on, Claudia. Shout out to Funky Dynamic. If you know, you know. But yes, so it's just racist attack after racist attack, bullshit after bullshit, American empire crumbling after American empire crumbling. But again, the American empire was not founded under the correct circumstances. So the day for it to fall will come. People keep, burying their heads in the sands or looking around like how Adele was at that game when she was pretending like she, that camera was in her face. Yeah. Be a sin duck if you want, but the day will come where the blood, that was shed to found this shit, you gotta right that wrong. You owe too much. You in debt. This it's not sustainable. Something got to give. But yes, I am. I just I feel like I'm always saying how tired I am of stuff, and I just feel like saying the word tired isn't even effective anymore because I feel like there's another word there. There are. other words that are much stronger, that express how disgusted and honestly discouraged I feel right now. Am I gonna totally give up? No, because that's what they want me to do. And I don't care how bad things are. I still have some type of power. Ain't nobody gonna ever take all my shit away. Like, even when I'm dead, bitch, my ghost still gonna be coming with something. You not finna sit me down. I'm just not that type of girl. I'm not the fall in line kind. But I don't know. This shit is just, it's crazy. So yeah, back to the main focus, which is the Voting Rights Act being gutted. I was on the NAACP's website and they, gave like a brief timeline, kind of getting into things, and I actually touched on this. I think it was the episode called "Brokers for Bones, Not Men." Now I was discussing voting from like the perspective of women are not always having the right to vote, but as we know, there used to be discriminations based off gender and race and language. So, really quickly, I'll just get into some things on the NAACP's website. They say that white men aged 21 and older who own property were given the right to vote in 1776. The 15th Amendment to the Constitution removed racial barriers to voting in 1870, but states continue to practice voter discrimination and continue to deny black voters a chance to participate in elections, of course. And the right to vote was extended to white women in 1920. And it wasn't until 1965, after years of intimidation, murders, and advocacy, that the path to the voting booth was cleared for Black people with the Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965. And then there was an extension of the Voting Rights Act in 1975, which again was for Latinx Americans, and that legal protection was put in place to protect them from discrimination based on language. And it's just so frustrating that it's the same shit, same battle, same evil destroying the world. And I always say this goes back to America not being founded right, and I stand on that. But another big thing I feel like that it's not discussed enough is that the United States did not properly shame and punish the Confederates after the Civil War. The way they were able to just integrate back into society, and like they were never ever really truly punished and held accountable for their bullshit, is another big problem. You have to put a fire out the first time. You can't just, when you see when you see flames like growing bigger, you can't fan them. You can't just leave the fire unattended. You can't just sprinkle a few drops of water on it. You have to douse that bitch in water. Do you hear me? And they were not doused. And since they were not doused, they continued to burn everything in sight, and here we are. So you know the fact that I'm dealing with the same targeted oppression that my ancestors for generations and generations before me fought and literally got murdered to end so I wouldn't have to deal with this. You mean to tell me we're dealing with the same shit? The same wound, Flav? The same wound? Like, shout out to Tiffany Pollard. I feel like I'm in the twilight zone sometimes. Like what is actually happening in the world around me? And I absolutely am personally impacted, being the fact that I live in Tennessee. Even if I was not in a red state, I still would be absolutely devastated because that affects everybody no matter what. But, the fact that I am in the South, unfortunately, what voting looks like for me moving forward may be impacted because I'm literally in a blue dot in a sea of red. And of course, all of the Republicans that love to be in front of the camera in Tennessee, like Marsha Blackburn, evil, hellbound ass, was one of the first people to call for the Tennessee maps to be redrawn. Of course, Bill Lee, trash box, supporting their bullshit to make Daddy Trump happy. And actually, I think I wrote down the list of Southern governors that have like openly supported redrawing the maps. Let me see, where did I write that down? So it looks like Republicans in Tennessee, Alabama, Louisiana, and South Carolina have either already done it or are very close to redrawing congressional maps that give them an advantage in the midterms, an unfair advantage, basically helps their ass cheat, like I said. And unfortunately, Tennessee did like at the time that I was originally writing my notes, it was on the table, but at this point they have absolutely passed it. And what really was irritating and infuriating is during the process, they pretended like they all of a sudden don't know that Memphis has a majority black population, but they absolutely know that when it's time to use coded language to disrespect black Memphis. Hence, the way people were reacting when LaCoon James said that dumb shit that he said on the last episode where I had to whack him in his hair that won't stay in his scalp. But I've done enough on him, so I won't even get started on him. But yeah, all of a sudden they don't understand racial demographics in Memphis is, they don't see color. Oh, okay. And so this has the ability to devastate black Southerners. And I just feel so bad for people in Mississippi and Alabama and Louisiana. And of course for people here in in Tennessee, especially in Memphis. And I know I saw that, of course, Tate Reeves and his permanent blush. He head like built like a tomato. He built like a tomato, but he doesn't look healthy like a tomato. They were absolutely discussing redrawing the maps in Mississippi, but for some reason they canceled that. And I saw some people theorize it's because they realize. Now I do know that Mississippi. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Am I trying to say Mississippi? What? Anyway, Mississippi has the largest black population in the South, and I believe in the country. And they were saying that they probably saw that it was still going to be a lot of black districts no matter what, because Mississippi is so black. Shout out to Mississippi. And I saw that Brian Kemp also is holding off redrawing their maps, and that's suspicious to me. I think I saw something that said they would try or they were prepared to do it for 2028. But I'm like, why are you not jumping on this? That's suspicious. I know you're not doing it for the greater good because you're not that type of person. If you wanted to do what was for the greater good, Stacey Abrams will have your job right now. So I know that ain't where you doing it. I don't know what he up to, but I got my eye on him. And this is all messed up, but please know, we won't be the only ones hit if it does go down. You can keep voting against your own interests if you want to. We know how to survive. Can't say the same for everyone else. Anyway, I also find it to be incredibly whack that we're expected to keep going as if the walls aren't closing in on humanity as we know it. Like, what do you mean? Me as a black woman, I'm getting attacked from all angles. Like, they took away Roe versus Wade, gutted the Voting Rights Act. Black women have been losing their jobs, been getting fired and laid off in record numbers. It took me $40 to fill my tank up the other day, and usually it only takes me about 15 to 20, maybe 25 if I let my gas light come on. And I hit 40 the other day. Houses, they want you to pay $750,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that was built in like the 70s. Bread is $7 a slice. It costs $400 to get a manicure and a pedicure. Beyonce still has not released Act 3. All this stuff going on, and I'm supposed to care about getting up and going to work and paying bills. Work is the last thing I could care about right now. I am thankful for the fact that I have a direct deposit put into my account every 14 days. I love that. I enjoy the fact that I have pretty good benefits. Thank you. But with that being said, I still don't care about what they be talking about because you want me to focus on meeting these requirements and doing this amount of work and doing this and worrying about the team and worrying about this. I don't have time to worry about that. Like, my rights are being taken away. I don't give a fuck about, why am I paying bills? Why am I paying bills for in the world that y'all trying to destroy? What the fuck we paying bills for? Why am I paying a student loan back every month? I thought y'all said degrees don't matter. Okay, well, neither are the loans. Well, let's cancel it all. Like, why, how are we being expected to still show up and do all this stuff? That's crazy. And then if you say something about it, they put a target on your back and you become, the problem, even though what you're saying is the truth. How am I the problem for calling out the bullshit, but the people who created the bullshit are not the problem? You mad at the wrong people. But see, that's how capitalism works. It, works people to the bone to where they can't free themselves and actually live for themselves because they too worn down and bogged down with stress and too worried about surviving. Don't pay people enough. They'll be so scared to lose their job. They'll let us, treat them like shit so they can continue to feed themselves. And also stress people out and make all the people that work and make us money, make them hate each other and fight themselves. We take ourselves, out of their reach while we sitting here laughing at them making the money off of it while, they stress themselves and work themselves to death. And then when they get too sick, we gonna kick them out anyway and go get somebody else who desperate to make some money because we couldn't care less. And I'm supposed to care about being productive at work. I, no, like, no, we're not getting paid enough to be productive. I'm not being paid enough to disregard the fact that so many things are messed up around me. Even if I was getting paid a lot of money, certain things you can't put a price on, but you're not even gonna pay me a lot. And you want me to pretend, first of all, you want me to pretend that I'm getting paid enough to do a lot. I ain't doing that. I don't do the la la land stuff. I don't do the delusion. I am a water sign, but I'm a water sign that don't play that. I don't have time for no BS. Say what it is, say what it ain't. What you see is what you get. Let's not pussyfoot. Let's not sugarcoat. Let's do what we need to do, get it done, let's move on. Let's do our little 8 hours and let's go home. And if I can do less than 8 hours, I swear to God, I'm gonna find a way. If I can, the moment my PTO barely be in my bank and I be trying to figure out when I'm gonna use it. Because, the powers that be have shown, I don't know how many times they gotta show us they don't care if we live or die. And if we do die, they just gonna replace us with somebody else. They couldn't care less. They don't give a damn. Again, them be folks that don't even have a relationship with their own children and spouses and families and siblings. They don't care about none but them and their money. That's it, that's all. I'm also not gonna be concerned with trying to push myself to pretend like I'm just gonna keep moving like everything is normal. Everybody else can normalize pretending like you don't see everything falling around you and keep working yourself to death for a system that is clearly imploding and not working. But I'm not playing that game. Now I'll do what I need to do to keep my little direct deposit, until I can get a bigger direct deposit on, until I can do my own thing. And there are other blessings out there for me. I know I'm gonna find my way to them in the meantime, between time, get the little money that they do give me and enjoy my little benefits. But I will not sit and take this. I will absolutely always be, looking for ways to better myself. And I will absolutely not be working myself to the bone and letting myself be further exploited and stressed out and, being worked to the point to where I'm sick and I can't even do what I need to do for myself. And I can't prepare and I can't, try to that make good decisions as much as I can to try to get through whatever the hell we're going through right now, whatever is up the road. Work is not getting the bulk of my energy. I gotta conserve that for myself because the world is falling apart and I gotta do what I gotta do to try to make it through this. So I think that it's ridiculous for these jobs to be like, oh, we want you to do all this and we only gonna pay you in charted in layers now, girl. But we want you to give us multi-million-dollar work. You can give a multi-million-dollar kiss to Mike. That's what you can do. I look, these jobs can't fire everybody, the people that's doing all the firing and the hiring, it ain't like they finna come do these jobs because they think they too good. They, work their way into a position where they don't have to do nothing but sit it and twiddle their thumbs, look at the wall all day. Meanwhile, the people under them, the ones that's really doing all the grunt work. You know, I advise people pull back at work, do what you need to do to get shit done, to do what you literally bare minimum what you have to do. Don't let these folks play in your face. You see what's going on around you. Cause the moment there's stuff not going well for you and it impact how much work you can output for them, they getting rid of your ass. They kick you to the curb. They don't care if you're dying. You're gone. You gotta die one day. Everybody gotta die one day. Might as well die on your terms. Don't die because they pushed you to it. Die because you was ready to go. You know what I mean? I don't know how this is gonna look. I don't know what can be done. I know something can be done because people have faced way worse circumstances before, but it's like, oh my God, why do people let stuff get so bad before they like freaking do something about stuff? I can just pull my hair out right now. For me, like, I think my biggest question has been how will this impact the value of our votes? And I definitely did some research into that, but to be very honest, I wasn't really clear. Like, it was confusing to me. I will say I understand politics to a certain extent, but when it comes to the complexities of how, like, maps and districting and how votes are counted, they be putting me in the blender. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's why I really appreciate material and sources that provide, like, voter information in a way that's like really simple and to the point, because I begin lost in the voter information sauce. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's something that I'm going to continue to look into, and I encourage, even if I hate that I'm not able to like really just say it plainly, because I definitely want to provide information that can be useful. I don't just want to comment like, I would like to provide something that people can do something with, but unfortunately I'm not going to make nothing up. So I'll just be honest and say, girl, boy, they, I don't know, child, I got to see this ain't never happened before, so I got to see how this play out. But I mean, you ain't gotta always wait on somebody else to tell you. Look it up yourself. You may be able to figure out something I ain't figure out. I don't know. So, you know, sometimes we have to get into the field and we have to do things on our own. Sometimes we have to have curiosity of our own. We have to want to know. We have to want to learn. We have to get up off of our butts and use the same phones that we use to waste time and argue with people and keep up with celebrities and stalk people pages. Y'all be doing that. I don't do that. But the same phones that y'all use to do everything else, get on that same phone, do some research to see what is going on in the world that you are living in, because you need to know. Now, some of the things that I saw as far as what's being done or like what we can do as voters, I did see that the ACLU and the NAACP are suing in Louisiana and Tennessee for I know for in Tennessee it's for the redistricting maps. And in Louisiana, I think it's regarding, it may also be with redistricting, but I think it also may be regarding them suspending the congressional primaries. But I know those two groups are taking legal action right now in Tennessee. I know I also, if I'm not mistaken, in Tennessee, I believe Steve Cohen is filing a lawsuit against them for approving those new maps. Now, on an individual level, I was on the website of League of Women Voters, and they had some things on there, such as attending public hearings, of course, to voice your concerns. I know that a lot of people have been showing up in person. A lot of people in Tennessee were going to Nashville to protest, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw something today. Let's see, what's today? I don't even want to say what today's date is, because when I started this podcast with this particular episode, it was so many days ago. I don't want y'all to really know how long it's taking me to do this. But so it's May 20th. I think I saw on Twitter, I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday. I believe it was one day this week. I saw that some people were taking a bus to Jackson, Mississippi to do like some voter stuff. So that's great. We definitely need to um get, in the field with our people in Mississippi, because again, Black state in the United States, they are always being attacked. They have always been attacked. They are always just getting like the shortest end of every stick. So shout out to the people who went down there and did that. Um of course, you can submit written comments that demand for the maps to reflect your community. However, not to be a Debbie Downer, I'm really not sure how effective that is. Now, I cannot lie, I've never personally done that. Like I do stuff in other ways, but like because I don't know, I just feel like they see this shit and they rip it up. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, whack me. I'll hold that. But I'm just telling y'all what the League of Women Voters said. I'm just putting it out there. And also connecting with civic organizations, faith-based groups, and local leaders and organizers that you trust. And again, that goes back to sometimes we have to do our own research, because there are organizations, especially grassroots organizations, that are always out there, always doing the work, always need more hands, need more funding. So sometimes, we have to get up and get out there, and we have to want to know these things for ourselves. We have to go look for these things ourselves. We have to have the initiative and the follow through to actually, maybe you working during the week and you can't go down to these meetings and voice your concerns, but you can, get a membership in an organization and like donate, or you can, do some canvassing. You can help people register to vote. You can attend different events where people are educating about voter rights, and helping people know where their polling places are, especially if they are in a place where their maps were just changed and their polling locations and district representatives may not be different. A lot of those positions are trying to intentionally eliminate Black seats. So, these are things that we can look up ourselves. So, absolutely, connect with some like minded people or like minded organizations that also have some discernment, please. Because a lot of folks out here playing and grifting, but not everybody is BS. And some people are really out here doing the work. Um, connect with some people who are actually like out there doing the work and doing the right thing, and see how you can get involved. And I I know people feel like their vote doesn't matter, and I'll never say I agree with that. I do understand why people say that, because I don't care what nobody say. I wholeheartedly believe that Kamala won the presidential election, and also I believe Elon Musk like has said multiple times that he helped that sloppy orange bitch get his sloppy diaper wearing ass back on Pennsylvania Avenue. But anyway, so I look, the votes matter. They mean something, because if it didn't, they wouldn't be going out their way to do all this. So, you know, Godspeed to everybody involved. I had to get this out, because I was just like, you have got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. I literally have family members that were born before the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1956. And it's like, again, same song, different bitch in the booth. Same porcelain seat, different fecal matter in the bowl. It's just, that was kind of gross. But I don't know. Me personally, I will continue to be engaged in the ways that I can. Again, I will continue to vote. With my organization, of course, we do a lot of social action. We do a lot of voter registration drives and voter information, like panels and talks. And I will continue to see where I can fit in. I will continue to keep up with what is going on legally with this. And I think I've, kind of said everything that I'm going to say for this particular episode. Again, this wasn't even planned. This was just something that I was like, yeah, child, I gotta go ahead and address this, because I'm about to jump up in my skin. I'm so pissed off at these people. But for now, I think this is the end of this episode. Thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who is still listening. I appreciate your patience because I know y'all probably be getting sick of me waiting 12 years before I submit another episode. But you know what? Unfortunately for me, I have to work a full time job to live. So if you want to fund my life, if you want to be my sponsor, if you would like to put $1 million in my bank account so I can quit and record, y'all will get a new episode every week. You might get one twice a week if, I had that freedom, but I do not. So, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your listen. And until next time, bye.